What is up, my peepholes? This is your guy, Cly, and welcome back to Budget Buys. Now today, I'm going to be taking a look at this little guy. This is the Link wireless speaker that I found just last week at my local Five Below, and as per usual, this is brought to us by Bass Jaxx, which, for the uninitiated, they are the people that make about 90% plus of the audio gear that you're going to be finding at Five Below, especially the Bluetooth variety. Admittedly, I thought I was going to be done with Five Below Bluetooth speakers for a while, but this one kind of pulled me in with a really interesting gimmick. And I think it's actually a blessing in disguise because if you can't hear from my voice, I'm kind of losing it, so a mic test would have been out of the question today. As for what that gimmick is, it's kind of hiding right there in the name. These speakers are meant to link up and provide you with a stereo surround experience. Though, we'll see about that later on in the video. And yes, I did actually buy a pair of them. And as you can see, I went ahead and bought one of each because that way, A, I'm not being boring by just having the same color over again, and B, I can take a look at the build quality of both. Anyway, before we get any further, let's talk specs. I'll just get that other box out of the way and flip this little guy over. And I'll keep this at a distance because last time things got a little bit shaky and I was getting motion sickness while editing. Anyway, they say this is a 3-watt speaker with a 40mm audio driver as opposed to the 52mm drivers they've been using for a little over a year now. And it's packing a 300 milliamp hour battery, which is meant to provide you with 1.5 to 2 hours of battery life and 1.5 hours of charging time. And I'm not gonna lie, there's a fib hiding in there somewhere, but we'll get to that later. As for the linking procedure, it's right here on the side. They claim all you have to do is turn on 2 speakers simultaneously and wait 3 to 5 seconds for them to pair up. And that's another fib. In fact, I'll get more into detail about that once I change up this shot. Alright, here's the speakers, and I want to go ahead and point out before we go any further that they're freaking tiny. At least compared to a lot of the other speakers Five Below has been pumping out recently, and I'm not even going to say that's a bad thing. I think it actually works in their favor this time around. For scale, here's a AA battery. They're not exactly giants. Now let's talk about those fibs, shall we? First off, the pairing fib. While yes, technically, if the speakers were paired together prior to being turned off, they will immediately find each other again when you turn them back on, and 3 to 5 seconds later, fully functional. However, if you've changed something up, like you've paired the speakers to a different device, or the speaker that was the secondary got paired to a device as a primary, you're going to need to resync them. According to the manual, all you have to do is first make sure you do not turn on the Bluetooth from whichever device you're going to be syncing these to, and then you turn on both speakers, double tap the power button on the speaker you want to be on the left, and 3 to 5 seconds later, they're synced. In fact, let me go ahead and demonstrate that. Let me get this battery out of the way, and I think I'm going to have the white speaker be on the left because it's been driven into my head after many years of using RCA cables that white is your left channel, red is your right channel. And sadly, they didn't have a red speaker. All right, so we turn both of them on. Double tap the one on the left. Wait for it. There we go. And now you'll notice the one on the right is blinking slowly. That is your right channel. It's already paired. The one blinking quickly is your left channel. It's looking for your phone or other Bluetooth device. Also, one thing they don't mention in the manual is the fact that if you hit the power button on either of these speakers, it'll turn both of them off, like so. That one's off too. Notice no blinkies. Usually there's a bit of a delay, maybe if I use this one to turn them both off. Either way, they're both off. I will go ahead and say that turning them both back on with a single button isn't going to happen just because that means that they're synced even when they're technically powered off, and that'll burn through your battery something fierce. Speaking of battery life, while I flip these over, that's the main fib here because These don't have a 1.5 to 2 hour battery life. In every test I did, the low end that I got was actually 3 to 3.5 hours. So because they switched back to the 40mm driver while still sticking with the 300 milliamp hour battery, they're back to the realm of 3 to 4 hour speakers. And that includes when they're paired. And speaking of being paired, they do proper stereo audio. I'll be demonstrating that later. Also, when they're paired together, that actually kind of makes up for the audio quality loss of backstepping from a 52mm driver to a 40mm driver. So you win some, you lose some. Yes, they're not going to sound as great on their own, but they sound pretty dang good together. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about before moving on to the audio test is the build quality. Because they're so small, it does feel like they did a lot better job making these in general. Not only do they actually sound pretty dang good due to the fact that they're not losing a lot of their audio through vibrations of the housing, but the plastic doesn't feel like they cheaped out. Now, in my last Bluetooth speaker review, I talked about the hover speaker that went for a glossy effect and failed miserably. Here they went for more of a satin finish, and it actually looks pretty dang good. It also feels pretty nice to the touch. Also, this time around, it seems like they did a much better job with the white plastic than with the hover speaker because, while technically you still can see the LEDs on the inside, all in all, it feels hardier and it does a great job. It doesn't look like it's going to crack the moment you look at it wrong. And one last note on the design of these, they seem to be modeled after a pair of speakers that I saw on Amazon for $50, which do pretty much the same thing as these and rock a 6-hour battery life, and a few more onboard controls, I'll give them that, but I spent $10 total here and I get about 3 to 4 hours of battery life using them as a pair, or if I wanted to use them one at a time, I'd actually get beyond the 6 hours up to 8 hours of battery life, so haha! Okay, technically those would get 12 hours if I did the same thing, so strike that point from the record. Either way, I paid 1/5 the price for 1/2 to 2/3 the battery life, so yeah, that's actually pretty dang good. Now let me change the shot out one last time and bring out a stereo microphone so that I can prove to you that these do indeed do stereo audio. Alright, I've got my Yeti hooked up and set to the stereo pickup pattern. Both speakers are linked and hooked into my phone, and for just such an occasion, I've prepared a stereo test audio file that I've gone ahead and uploaded to my YouTube channel. Feel free to use it at your leisure. Anyway, let's get this started.
Channel right, channel center channel, left 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 channel right, channel center.
Riveting, wasn't it? But that's just meant to show you that these speakers do indeed output a stereo signal. Now, I don't know if the microphone picked it up, but I did have to add a slight hum in the background of that audio file, somewhere around the -60 decibel range, because for some reason these speakers, and actually come to think of it, a lot of Bluetooth speakers from Five Below and other lower cost sources, they have a slight delay before they pick up. So if there's pure silence in an audio channel or the file in general, they're going to stay shut off and kick in after the second syllable. I've just noticed that in a lot of lower cost speakers, so I don't know if there's really any way to fix it other than that little trick I did. But I did leave that little hum in the background of the file I'm uploading to my channel so that you can test other speakers and headphones that are going to have that issue. And speaking of issues that plague not only these speakers, but a lot of other Bluetooth speakers, including ones released by Bose, and that is that there is a slight delay in audio output. Now, this isn't going to affect you if you're listening to music, podcasts, audiobooks, etc. However, if you're going to watch videos on YouTube, or heck, try to watch a movie, since these are stereo speakers and they would give you a bit of a surround experience, you're going to run into just a few issues. Especially if you're like me and seeing that slight delay kind of makes your eye twitch a little bit. I know it doesn't affect everyone, but it can get to me a bit. What can I say? Now, back on the point of music, what kind of speaker review would this be if I didn't show you what kind of audio quality you're going to be getting with something other than my voice going left channel, right channel, center channel? You don't want to just hear that, so let me blast a little metal at you. And that's how the Link speakers sound with just a little bit of metal. Now, as for how I thought it sounded, I don't know how well it comes through on the Yeti, but it wasn't the greatest. Because they went back down to the 40mm audio driver, it is lacking a little bit in bass and treble, though it does make up a good bit of distance in that disparity by the fact that you're getting a stereo channel, so you've got two drivers going at once. That being said, because you're getting not only the stereo, like I just mentioned, but also an improved battery life thanks to going back to the 40mm audio drivers, I actually have quite the opinion of these. Though I do want to point out, for some reason, the computers that I was testing these with got a little funky. I don't know if it's just my laptops or if it's these speakers in general, but when I had them linked together and paired with my laptop, they would work fine for a second, but eventually the computer would try to actually access each speaker independently, shooting a mono channel to both, and due to the fact that it was communicating with two speakers at once, it had a bit of a delay, so there was a good bit of reverb and quite the delay in it, like half a second. It was extremely annoying. Like I said, I don't know if it's my computers, so you're not going to have that issue or whatnot, but I did not have that problem at all with my phone. It behaved admirably, minus the slight delay and fact that they don't like to kick in immediately from pure silence. Like I said, those issues plague every speaker I've ever put my hands on. So, do I think these are worth $5 each? Yeah, actually, I definitely like these speakers. I have zero regrets in buying them, and the fact that they have the ability to work in stereo for an additional $5, hands down, yeah, I would definitely say buy two. But that's just my opinion. If you do end up buying a pair of these and don't like how they turned out, the beauty of it is that you bought it at a physical store, and as long as you keep your receipt, you can return them no problem. And on that note, I've got an ever-growing pile of microphones to get back to testing out, so until next time, this is your guy Cly, signing off.